honor. I know that your time is limited and you have so many demands. So it's really nice that you are here with us today. So let's begin. This is specifically targeted to our choice schools. And my name is Carrie Bowe. I work on the customer services team, and I am your WISEdata Choice School Liaison. So if I haven't spoken to you, I look forward to working with you in the future. And if I have, thanks for being on the team. Thanks for joining us today. I'm going to give a brief overview of what WISEdata is, and then we'll move forward to discuss what this looks like for you. WISEdata is an automated data collection, and it starts with you participating in the choice program and agreeing to submit data elements that are going to be produced or are used to produce your school accountability report card. It is automated from our end. Now with your student information system, some choice SIS vendors do not send data over automatically. It's a manual process. So that's something that I want you to keep in the back of your mind. You need to verify if you as the school need to send over data manually from your SIS, or if this is something that's happening automatically in the background. And I do want you to know we are welcoming questions today. Go ahead, throw them in the chat as they come up, and we will work to get answers for you. WISEdata does integrate with other systems, and we'll discuss some of those today. And when you're looking at WISEdata, your data is near real time. And so what that means is when you push data over from your vendor, from your SIS, you are able to view a timestamp of how recent the data is or has been received in WISEdata portal. And so your time is valued. We try to be as efficient as possible when you're working in these systems so that you know what is in your SIS is coming over and hopefully, ideally, displaying correctly in WISEdata portal. Sometimes there's data flow issues between the vendor and coming over to the portal. And we're going to talk about tools to monitor those pieces of data to be sure that everything's coming over. WISEdata does work it links to WISEID. So we have another application that we had a session on yesterday, and if you weren't able to attend that session, it is recorded. WISEID is a separate application that houses all of the WISEIDs for the students in the state that are being reported to WISE. And so these two applications do work together to be sure that the data is attached to the appropriate person. And this is not the entirety of everything that you'll be reporting, but it is kind of a cumulative piece here. We're looking at your graduation dropouts. We're looking at exits, how students are completing the school year. We're looking at third Friday of September enrollments and also your attendance data. And I'm just going to give a little housekeeping here. If you have not already muted your microphone, please do so in the Teams meeting. Also, the chat feature is here. We have a little show conversation bubble. So if you have questions, please throw them in the chat. All right, moving on. If you are new to WISEdata, please go to the WISEdata homepage. Peruse the pages that we have available. We have a lot of resources available to you. Please reach out to our customer services team if you're new. We can send you resources, we can answer questions, we're here for you. But essentially, we know that we're all working together to build student success. And giving efficient reporting in your SIS and verifying accurate data in WISEdata portal is going to allow accountability to see accurate data and allow all of us as stakeholders to make data-driven decisions, to make improvements, and to continue to grow. And we know as we are collecting these pieces of data, we're working hard to be sure that we're protecting student privacy and always growing in how we're handling that data. You as a choice school are collecting data because of the state requirements that are attached to your participation in the choice program. We know that we want to better educational outcomes for your students, and we want that tool of the school report card, that transparency, to be available for our stakeholders to celebrate our successes and show our stakeholders what's happening at your school and what kind of outcomes you can celebrate. So let's talk about how this process works. And if you're a veteran user, you have been through this process. If you're a new user, this is great information for you to have. You are going to work on selecting a student information system. Your SIS vendor is so important. Take your time. Make sure that the vendor that you're working with is a good fit for you and your school. Ask a lot of questions. If you don't know what questions to ask, come to us and we'll help you. Your vendor needs to be certified with DPI to be sure that their SIS product is configured to the EdFi API standards that we use. And so they work with us here at DPI to make sure everything is up to par and everything will function for you. Be aware that all vendors do not credential or certify in all of the reporting pieces, okay? And so I'm going to show you a piece of information that we have that will give you all of the places or pieces the vendors have certified in so that you have awareness. You need to make sure that your team is set up to access these secure reporting applications. And so having that set up with WAMS IDs and using WISEsecure to give access to your team so that they can access the applications. It's some front work there that needs to be accomplished. If you have change of staff and staff have left, you need to take away access. So if that's something that's on the horizon for you or your current reality, take a note. We need you to log into WISEsecure and get your team organized for access to the applications. Once everyone has access, your staff is entering data into the SIS, specifically looking at demographic data, enrollment data, and whatever you're entering into your SIS, that is what is going to show in WISEdata portal. So what you enter into your SIS is going to be sent over to the WISEdata portal. Before information is sent over, before things can come through from your SIS to WISEdata, you need to be sure that you have assigned WISE IDs to the students that you are reporting. And as students come and go, you would continue to assign new WISE IDs as necessary, and then you will log into WISEdata portal to verify accuracy, to verify the data is coming over. If you see errors and warnings, or if you see a discrepancy in what should be and what is actually appearing, we work with you to resolve that. I do have a quick video, and the purpose of this video is a great resource. We are looking already to the spring of the school year. And as you have staff changes, as you're building that data team, you really need to think about data privacy. Our educational agencies are under a high risk of cyber attack, of phishing, and please be aware of the highly sensitive nature of the data that you're entering. Being sure that secure roles are set up, that we are not sharing user roles, that we are not sharing email addresses and passwords, because the risk that you're running when we do not use best practices, when we are not using fidelity is that highly sensitive data, heaven forbid, could be in the wrong hands. And we know you don't want that. We don't want that. If you're building your team, I would highly suggest taking a look at this really quick video on FERPA and the student data privacy. It's a great tool when you're onboarding your team or reconvening your data team. So let's talk about the fall of the school year. We want to help you streamline processes. We know that this is a large collection of data and an effort on your part. And so when we're thinking about what your enrollment process looks like, you want to be sure that you are including all of the data elements that need to be submitted to WISE so that you're getting the information kind of one-stop shop there in an efficient way, in a secure way, and also with fidelity. This information is highly sensitive, very personal. And so when we're interacting with families, we want to be sure that we're collecting this data with integrity and respect. So as we go through all of these pieces, think about what your enrollment paperwork entails now, or maybe what your SIS parent portal looks like, and how you can refine it and improve it, or what pieces you need to add. Oh, I should go back, sorry. I have on the slide, I'm trying to go back, the required data elements here. And notice that I have a lot of links in this presentation. These are here for a reason. And when I click on this link, it takes us to our DPI page where it lists all of our data elements specifically for choice schools. Notice I have a school type drop down here. I have highlighted already for you choice schools. And so here are all of the pieces of data that we are collecting. This is what you are entering in your SIS. Okay, so if you want to say, okay, what is it that we need? What do we need to enter? It's all listed here for you. The next piece I want you to keep in mind is your all student report card status. Did your school opt in? Did your school opt out? Think about why you made that designation, and understand that you can change your designation to opt in or opt out. For the 22-23 school year, there's a form that PEO has available for you, the Parental Education Options team, and the form has to be submitted by the first weekday in August. So if your school is choosing to opt in, that means that you are choosing to report all of your students. So that means you are going to collect all of the data elements for all of your students. And you're giving a very clear picture on your student report card of what's happening at your school in its entirety. If you choose to opt out and only report your choice students, that means you're collecting all of the data elements for only those choice participants. And I want to take a step back and think about, if we are collecting specific information from a subset of our students, in this scenario, if you opt out and you're only reporting choice participants, think about how you can be tactful and how we can respect the privacy of our choice participants in collecting these data elements. When we're working within WISEID, we do have a tool called identity integration. And I shouldn't say we have a tool. This is something that your SIS vendor would have built. Verify with your SIS vendor if they are using the identity integration tool, because it is a very streamlined process that will save you time in your WISEID reporting. And it is in your best interest to advocate to streamline your time and processes. And so take a look to see if your SIS has built that identity integration tool where you're able to automatically obtain WISEIDs or populate those WISEIDs rather than going through a manual process of exporting a spreadsheet from your SIS, importing the spreadsheet into WISEID, taking a spreadsheet out of WISEID and putting it back into your SIS. I have all the data elements listed here. And so again, be in the know, be aware. I understand if you're a new user or still kind of getting your feet wet with this process, oftentimes you don't know what you don't know. So please take a look at the data elements. Be aware, hey, do we have this on our paperwork? Are we collecting all of these pieces? There's a wealth of knowledge here that we're offering to you. I'm not going to discuss each of the data elements in detail, but I am going to call out a few that do cause confusion for our schools, and I want to offer clarity and offer time for questions. If your school is participating in National School Lunch Program or Community Eligibility Provision, then you more than likely have a basic understanding of how to report a student's economic status in their Food Service Program Association. Now, for those schools that do not participate in National School Lunch Program or that do not participate in the Community Eligibility Provision, CEP, I do not want you to tune out. I want you to lean in right now. If your school does not participate in state or federally sponsored lunch programs, your choice school still needs to report these data elements. And here's how. The student economic status is typically if you participate in a sponsored lunch program, this is something that is streamlined through that lunch program. If you're not participating in the lunch program, you still need to collect the household income to determine a student's economic status, okay? And so the way that is determined is if the student is eligible for free or reduced price lunch. Okay, don't tune out on me, but Carrie, we don't offer free or reduced price lunch. Why would we do that? We are looking at outcomes of students, okay, in a lot of different lenses. And one of those lenses is if the student is considered economically disadvantaged. The way you determine a student's economically disadvantaged status, we have a form created for you here called the alternate household income form, and it's also tagged here in the presentation. The alternate household income form is available PDF, but also a Word document. I prefer the Word document for the schools that are not participating in sponsored lunch programs because you are able to edit a few pieces of the verbiage that the PDF does not allow. And the verbiage that I am referring to, as the document opens, is essentially the header of the document saying, oh, our school is participating in CEP. If you participate in CEP, you certainly can keep that verbiage there for you. But if you do not, it is not appropriate or necessary for you to do that. You want to change that verbiage to be a good fit. Oh, it's not even on the Word document. That's perfect. So here's our alternate household income form, and this is the form that you want to use when you have students coming in the fall. I say students coming in the fall because this is very sensitive to the school year that you're working in. Notice this is labeled 21-22 alternate household income form. These pieces of income, these income guidelines listed here, are sensitive to the specific school year. So do not use this form for 22-23. Our Food and Nutrition Services team will update this, typically posted in the middle of July, so that it's ready for you in the fall. What this form is doing is it's collecting the annual household income according to the household size, and then it helps you to determine if the students are considered economically disadvantaged or not. Okay, so in this format, if they have a family of 5 and they are making up to $57,000, $424, they would be considered economically disadvantaged. If it's above that price, or that income, I should say, they are considered not economically disadvantaged. And so there is verbiage here at the bottom for your school staff that is designating if you are not participating in CEP, if you are not participating in NSLP, Please determine if the student is considered economically disadvantaged. Enter that true and false into your SIS. And if you are not participating in sponsored lunch programs, use the unknown value in your food service eligibility. The food service eligibility is paired with our student economic status. And typically within the same window in your vendor, in your SIS, you'll want to work with your SIS to know where these windows live. So we have that form available to you. If you did not collect that data, it's not too late. You can still use this form and collect that. We do have a May demographic snapshot that's approaching, and that snapshot is going to connect to assessment results, and it would be very valuable to have that valid, accurate data so that it's presented accurately on your school report card. A few more pieces of the data elements that I wanted to discuss. Again, we're not discussing all of the data elements in its entirety, but this is some of the pieces that may be misreported often or cause confusion, is the English language proficiency of your students. ELP, as we know, we want to identify our students. We do not want our students falling through the cracks, and some of our students that are English language learners, they are not necessarily serviced, or even their needs may not be recognized because we may be unaware. And so we want to give you all the tools so that you can serve your students and your families, and also build that toolkit for your educators so that they have what they need to scaffold instruction and create student success. So English language proficiency is a really key piece to that. If your school chooses to report ELP, please use the home language survey with your incoming students. The home language survey will help you determine if the student is eligible to take something called the access assessment. I'm scrolling down in the survey to show you. This is the form itself here. And you only need to use this with essentially your new school year and with your students one time. When they return for the new school year, you do not have to have them interact with this form again. And so this, after you have the families or students fill out the home language survey, you're able to determine if they are eligible to take an access assessment. If your school has experience delivering the access assessment, wonderful. If you do not, work with your public district. Collaborate with them so that you can deliver the access assessment, and you would be given the English language proficiency of your student who is an English language learner. And the English language proficiency is reported on a scale from 1 to 7. There are scores that may be 4.1, for example. You would just want to report the whole number to the left of the decimal. And this is what you're placing in your SIS. If in some circumstances you weren't aware that a student had taken an access assessment from a previous school, there will be an error in WISEdata indicating that the value, that ELP, has not been entered and is missing. And so that would give you great intuition of what their English language proficiency was, and that the student needs services, according to their ELP, if they need services for instruction for their language proficiency. The next piece that does cause confusion is a student's disability status. If a student has worked within an IEP, you want to report that student's disability. If you have a student that is being serviced through an ISP with the public district, you want to report that student's disability. Now, with that being said, if the student is being serviced with another educational agency, so for example, if the student is receiving services through the public district for, let's say, special education, speech language, your WISEdata is going to show 2 enrollments. You are going to be the primary enrollment, And the public district is going to be the non-primary enrollment. So the public district is required to report the services that they are delivering for that student. So do not be alarmed if you log into the portal and see 2 enrollments under the student details for a student. That is intentional, but be aware that your enrollment needs to be listed as primary and the public district needs to be listed as non-primary. And what makes this happen is the public district needs to designate your student who is receiving services as parentally private placed. In the public district, this is a flag in their SIS that they need to apply. Sometimes this doesn't happen, right? We know that human error comes up and the flag is not applied. And so then we get an overlapping enrollment error in WISEdata portal indicating that there are 2 primary enrollments. And so something that you would be able to do is you reach out to that public district, say, hey, I see 2 primary enrollments for my student. I need that to be modified. Please use the parent place private flag, and then the error will be resolved. When we're thinking ahead to the fall and we're thinking about our enrollment documents and how we can better identify needs and gain that data for data-driven decisions in our schools, we do have a collection for ancestry, ethnic origin. I'm excited about this collection. There are grants that are available for choice schools if you choose to report the data for your students. If students or if our grants are available and your school is eligible, this is something that a choice school can attain. We cannot say that about all of the grants that are available. The majority of them are something that the public schools can access, but choice schools cannot. And so this is a great way for you, first of all, to identify who is in your student body and what needs they may have, and also track successes, track academic growth, track attendance according to ancestry, ethnic origin. So this is something that is optional for SIS vendors to build. And we're going to take a look at which SIS vendors have allowed this collection for you to report. But again, the purpose is for us to better target programs to support students from marginalized groups. And so the federal reporting is very broad, right? We can say, yes, the student is Hispanic or Latino. But what we are able to attain then, are they coming from Puerto Rico? Are they coming from Mexico? We look at, again, we're breaking down each of these broad federal reporting pieces to take a look at, okay, if they're identifying as Asian, what subgroup or ethnic origin can they report so that we can be sure, do we need an ELL speaker for our Hmong students? Are they struggling in their academics? This is for you to target and pinpoint the needs in your school, and also ideally access funding to meet those needs. This is the same scenario for tribal affiliation. If we are able to target the needs and improve education achievements of our Native American children and youth by identifying their tribal affiliation, looking at successes, looking at outcomes, looking at attendance, and also knowing that if we need more resources, that's something that is available to you that you can access. So we'll take a look at the vendor list, see if your vendor is certified for collecting these pieces. The other piece that is highly recommended that you participate in is digital equity. We had at-home learning. And this is a great piece of information so that you have transparency on what access your students have at home to reliable internet and devices. You as a team of educators are able to generate reports through your SIS. We do have reports at DPI, but a lot of times the SIS reports are much more streamlined and easier for you to access so that you can put resources in place for those students that may not have the access or devices that they need. Think about enrollment dates. Think about how you can collaborate with your vendor in the beginning of the school year to apply bulk enrollment dates and then modify enrollment dates as necessary for students that are not coming on the first day of school. We value your time. We value your energy. Work with your vendor on beginning of school year protocol. How can you get the correct begin date in your SIS vendors enrollment windows? And also, how can you end the school year with correct exit dates and exit types? The school year is flying by for you. And at the end of the school year, your vendor can apply bulk exit dates and then modify the individuals that may not meet those specific exit dates and also those exit types. Please don't be alarmed when I say they're exiting and they're leaving you. Each WISEdata reporting annual piece needs a begin date and an end date. Even if your students are coming back to you in the fall, we still need a beginning and end for that WISEdata reporting. And so the beginning and end, like I said, have a begin date, and an exit type. The exit types are listed here for you in a table, and I want you to be aware that the most common exit type when we have students that are coming back to you in the fall, there is verbiage here that it is not necessarily intuitive, is the TC exit type. Know that your vendor may have different verbiage than DPI. Talk to them about that. We want it to match. We want it to be intuitive. And if the language isn't matching, you need to get clarification on what exit type should be used in what scenario. If a student is leaving in the spring and coming back to you in the fall, from what you believe, you can use that TC exit type that they're continuing in the same school, known to be continuing. Educators and administrators and everyone on the team listening today, be proactive now. If you are hearing rumblings that a student is moving, that a student is transferring, reach out and gain clarification. You are reporting this student. This is your responsibility, and you want to have accurate data. So if you're able to reach out to the school the student is expected to transfer, first of all, that we know that's best practice because we want to get all of the required materials in that new transferring school's hands so that everyone's ready, set to go. But also you're able to use the correct information so your data is accurate and we know what's happening with that student. Because again, our end goal is to look at what's happening with the student. How can we build successes? What patterns are we seeing? There is a document created specifically for choice schools, and it's called our exit type decision guide. If I could build fireworks around this, if I could put neon lights, I would. This is really invaluable for you because it is a process to help you determine. Exit types can be confusing. And so this is for you to determine, what should I enter for the student? How does the exit type apply to this scenario? So please use our exit type decision guide. The third Friday of September. Like I said, if you're new, you don't know what you don't know. There's so much going into WISEdata reporting, and a very common mistake our schools make are forgetting to show the third Friday of September count inclusion. In your SIS, you need to be sure that students who are choice participants have that choice flag, and you need to be sure that you are indicating if the student was present receiving services on third Friday of September or absent receiving services on third Friday of September. If you do not have that marked, the third Friday of September data is not going to be accurate for you. And that is a big piece of information that generates the accountability report card. So work with your vendor. Where do all of these WISE reporting pieces live? How can I designate the student's third Friday of September inclusion? Okay. Okay, here's the link to show you what your vendor is participating in. This is our vendor status list. We have all of the vendors that are certified to report for WISE reporting here. And on the right-hand side, we're giving you each of the supported features. If you're shopping for a new vendor, or you're looking at, yeah, I would really like to report this piece, you can identify if your vendor is participating or if they have certified in that feature. The immunization registry integration is a tool available to schools that opt in to the all student report card. We received a lot of feedback from schools saying that the vendor input, the time that our staff were submitting immunization registry information into the SIS, that manual data entry, that it was a huge burden. And so what we have done is we have collaborated with DHS, Department of Health Services, to automatically upload the immunization information into your SIS for you. This is a tool that's available if your school has opted in to the all student report card and if your vendor has certified and built the tool for you. So keep that in the back of your mind when you're talking to your vendor or you're looking at this list right now. Do you have that access? When we're looking to the fall of the school year, we have the title services consultation. We know that private schools and public schools do a great job at collaborating, do a great job at meeting the needs of their students and their families and communities. And so we only want to work on improving that. Discuss with your district what services are available through Title I, through Title III. When we're looking at Title I services, often the economic status that's collected is something that you can streamline already for your WISEdata reporting. If you are receiving Title III services, work with your district to be sure that your students are receiving that access assessment. Work with your district to schedule services or receive resources, whatever that may be. A lot of times, schools and districts, there's a disconnect because you're not aware of what services you can receive, and the school district doesn't know your needs. So work on identifying what needs, what populations that may not have the resources that you can offer, and collaborate with the district on what you can do to collaborate. And also that quick reminder, the parentally private place flag. When we're reporting students by both agencies, it's important that that's placed by the public district. So it's a great just to even bring up in that conversation. Now we're going to walk through some basics. You have all the information. You've entered the data into your SIS. You've collaborated with your district. You've got services and resources in place. Now let's make sure that our data is coming over accurately. The first piece that WISEdata is going to take you to when you log in is going to be the home piece. The home of WISEdata portal gives you a timestamp of when data was last received. Oops. Look at all of the timestamps. Be sure that they are aligning and they are matching up and they are current. If the timestamp is from 3 months ago, ask your vendor if you're supposed to be manually sending data over, if there was a schedule that can be created in the background for data to automatically be sent over, and maybe that schedule has not been set up and created. I know, for example, schools that are new to PowerSchool and WISEdata reporting, Work with your vendor to set up an automatic schedule in the background. These are all things that you're not aware of. You don't know that you don't know, and so it doesn't get done, and then there's a breakdown in data flow. Be sure that you have contacts created. We want primary and secondary contacts. If you haven't done it now, please do so. We send bulk emails. We send important information to those primary, secondary contacts. We call you. And so we want to make sure that we have the correct contact information. So when you're logging into WISEdata portal, you're verifying, did my data land? You're looking at the timestamps. Here's another quick piece of how to indicate if the time of the data landed. If you see a red X or if you see data from the past, a timestamp from the past, that's a red flag to you that you need to get into contact with your vendor to determine what is impeding that data flow. If you want to dig in and get techie, you can. You can pull up API errors. You can send that to your vendor if it's helpful to them. You can also give your vendor access to your WISEdata so that they can dig in and determine what's going on. So as we look at the WISEdata vendor communication status, like I said, we want to see current timestamps. You want to see your vendor listed here. And then you'll scroll down. There's 3 pieces. We have something called the WISEdata API. The API is essentially the middleman between all of these different vendors and WISEdata portal. You want to make sure, did the data land in the API successfully? Does the timestamp align? From the API, it's going to come to WISEdata portal. This is a final step on your homepage. All you need to do is scroll down on your homepage, look at timestamps to be sure everything's aligning. If you see something that says no data received or you see old timestamps, you want to use our Queue, Import, and Validation button, this orange button here. This essentially prompts WISEdata to validate your data. Send you errors and warnings if you need it. Otherwise, we'll take a look at it, make sure everything looks accurate. And then your timestamp will be updated. We have so many features that you can use, and one of the filters that you're going to be using if you're a returning choice school is the school year filter. We are going to take a snapshot of your data, of your 2021-2022 data this coming December. You need to work in the previous school year to view your validation messages, to view your errors, to view your warnings. So use the school year filter to see if you have anything that needs to be addressed. We have a tool here for you called Data Quality Indicators. It lives at the toolbar at the top here. So I'm pointing my mouse here to the data quality. We just went through the home. We looked at our data flow. Make sure that all our timestamps, that data is being received. Now we're going to go to our data quality tab to give a brief high point view of what's coming over. We give cumulative totals of our current enrollment. So this will be enrollment as of that timestamp you looked on the home screen, and of your enrollment on the count date. If you are seeing this graph says 233, if you have 300 students that you're reporting, but the graph is only showing 233, this is why we built the data quality indicator. That's a cue to you to say, oops, there's a data flow issue. I need to contact my vendor to investigate why students are missing. Why are they not populating on this graph? Use this graph. It saves you time. It's so useful in verifying if everything's coming over as it should. And then if you identify that there is an issue, you're able to dig in deeper. You're able to use our student detail features. This is going to give you a list of everything you're reporting on a student. If you're seeing something missing, you're able to identify what you need to enter into your SIS. And as you continue to dig in, you're able to use the data quality exports. I'm going to hop to the exports page just so you can see this. These are spreadsheets of everything that you're sending over from WISEdata that allows you to investigate. So that's a quick walkthrough of the top toolbar of what you use when you're digging into WISEdata and making changes to your errors and warnings. We're, like I said, approaching the spring, the end of year. So on your list of to-dos, if you have students graduating, make sure you know where you're entering the credential type of the diploma the student is receiving. Make sure that you know what exit type you should be using for high school graduates. These are all on the horizon for your end of year. I have a lot of slides here explaining each of the exit types. We're not going to go through all of these because we are at time, but I am going to end on this page here. This is kind of what we're looking at for the school year. We have something called the annual task checklist that I'm going to bring up. It's living here in our helpful resources, and it's new-ish. And this is another, if I could throw confetti at you and get your attention right now, it would be because I want you to use the WISEdata annual task checklist. This is so useful for you as a new user, returning user. The only thing you need to be aware of is if there's an asterisk, it's not going to apply to you as a choice school, but this is extensive. This is here for you, telling you, hey, get into the school directory application right away in the fall. Make sure that you have access for your users, and it gives you all the resources and what you should be doing at what time, at what point, that scope and sequence. I am going to stop talking now, and I'm going to take some questions because we are over time. And I don't think I have our Q&A open.
Carrie, this is Drew from the moderating team. Couple of questions that we could not answer regarding the form that you talked about earlier. And I'm just getting back to those lists, but I think they're very similar questions. Thanks for bearing with me, coming from Greg and from Jennifer.
Can someone throw the Q&A in the chat so we can take a look at those?
It is in the chat already, but no problem at all. Michelle can help with that. The question I see is, does this form need to be filled out for every student or only choice students? And Jennifer followed up by saying, would this be the form to use if we offer free lunch to all students regarding of status?
Yes, Jennifer. So this is a form that you will use for all students if you report opt in to the all student report card. When you opt in, you're reporting everyone. And so you're going to collect all the information for all of your students. If you opt out and you only report your choice students, this is a form that you would use with your choice students. Think about how you can use the discernment to be private, to use, highest regard of respect and privacy so that we are not treating choice participants differently than our non-choice students, because this is very sensitive and personal information. If you are delivering free lunches to all of your students, we celebrate you, we appreciate you, and yes, this is the form that you would use to determine a student's economic status, so that you can report if they're economically disadvantaged or not, and then the food service eligibility. It would determine, are you CEP? Are you just offering free lunches through a local piece? Let me see if I got it. Let's see if there's more questions that we're missing.
Carrie, we had several questions regarding the Wisconsin Immunization Registry. Just to clarify, is it possible for a choice school that opts out to use the WIRR utility?
The best practice is that you need to opt in, because what happens is the way that it works is it takes the WISEIDs of your students, and that's how we're able to pull down from a cloud the immunization information for them. It won't work if all your students don't have WISEIDs, and you don't want to report all your students if you are opting out. It would cause a lot of errors and headache for you trying to push over students that shouldn't be reported. Retracting those enrollments are often not successful by the school, and you have to work with your vendor to do that. And you need to opt in to avoid any of that issue. How do we give vendor? Okay, yeah. So the question about how do we give our vendor access, you to work and view your portal. If there are issues through WISEsecure, you would work with your vendor to get their email address, to get them set up, and then they're able to go into your WISEdata, look at errors, look at transactions, help you troubleshoot. Becky, my understanding was if I opt out, I can still get immunization data for my choice students only because my other students don't have a WISEID. I have not found a way for that to be successful, Becky. We explored that, and the way the tool works is because all your students are in the SIS, you have to have WISEIDs for all of your students to get the immunization data. If we can explore that more, we certainly can. We can try to troubleshoot, but we took it to the developers and the product owners, and we were not able to get success in pulling down that immunization data for opt-out schools. Great questions. Okay, so Greg asks, yep, the form needs to be filled out. The alternate household income form needs to be completed. It depends on your opt-in, opt-out status. Opt-in for all students, then everybody needs to fill the form. If you opt out and it's just choice students, then just your choice participants need to complete that. Okay, we are over time. I'm really happy to see questions. Please submit a help ticket. Please email me. Please call me with questions as they come up. You are never alone with your questions. We are on your team, and we're happy to help you. I, again, just want to express my appreciation for your attendance this morning. I hope that you were able to gain new information. I hope that your processes can be refined so that you can honor your time and energy and effort. And we again just want to deeply express how much we appreciate what you do for your staff, your students, your families, and your communities. We know that WISEdata is a great tool to show transparency and celebrate the successes of what's happening through generating that accountability report card for your school. But truly, deeply, we're honored to be on your team, offer assistance at any time. And we all continue to work toward that goal of student success. Thanks for your time today. I hope everyone has a great Thursday morning. And enjoy our WISEdata conference. Thank you.